Hi all, another week, another review of Discovery's Season 3, this time Die Trying. Spoilers ahead for this review. We waste no time in this episode getting into contact with the remnants of Starfleet and the United Federation of Planets. The tracking down of the organisation was accomplished much faster than I thought it would, suggesting that the series has far more to bring to the table than simply rediscovering the UFP. Discovery, despite giving prior warning to Starfleet space, receives a chilly welcome, which is completely justified, but leads to a disgruntled Discovery crew. Looking at it from the Starfleet side, not only has the fleet been operating in triage mode for the past few decades, but from their point of view, a ship lost in 2258 with no record of anything like a spore drive or Section 31 control AI, all classified incidents, turns up via time travel. The last time the Federation interacted with time travel was in the culmination of the Temporal Accords, at the end of that messy time war that had hotspots erupt all throughout history. No wonder Admiral Charles Vance wouldn't let them near anything until they'd been thoroughly vetted. We learn that the United Federation has lost its governmental structure, and now Starfleet seems to be all that holds its remaining worlds together. From the minute the Commander-in-Chief is introduced, we're presented by a barrage of situations from multiple crises involving the Emerald Chain and an unknown pathogen. I'm pleased to see that Starfleet still seems to be trying to be Starfleet, provide aid to all of these issues. It's just overwhelmed, spinning so many plates. Over time, many are going to be dropped, and we're told that over time the Federation dropped from 350 members down to 38. A big contributing factor is apparently the loss of the UFP's subspace network, isolating the former member planets from the diminished fleet. As we saw with Trill, and to a lesser extent Earth, many of the worlds are doing fine. They're just sort of going at it alone until the UFP returns. Makes me think that we could see some real contributions towards the reconstruction of the Federation by the end of the series. But we need to see the UFP Council recreated fully. Hopefully Starfleet does not retain control of the 38 worlds, as it currently has. Government needs to be separate from the military, but has Starfleet been in control for so long that they'll know when to hand over the reins? Questions for later. It was super fun to see the Discovery crew nerding out over the 32nd century starships. Made me think of some of the reactions from certain Trek channels out there, and to be honest, I'm thinking of gathering as much info as I can on them to do my own. Also, it looks like I might have to update my Voyager Legacy video. We've got at least 10 others to add to the list. And it does give me the warm fuzzies to see that the Voyager also gets the Legacy Registry treatment that the Enterprise received. There's mention of organic compounds in the hull, entire segments of ships being holographic, and they note a ship that doesn't even have pylons. Such a plan was considered for the earlier Universe-class Enterprise J, so it's nice to see how the technology has evolved to crazy levels. Amazing that entire ships can be supported by holographic components. Their holograms must be so advanced. Oh, wait. They can be killed by trying to process irregular blinking, apparently. That was the only scene in this episode that gave me the Spock eyebrow reaction, and then a facepalm. The distortion field that hides the fleet's HQ is one being powered by all the surrounding vessels, and makes for a very alien and rather un-Federation-y style display, which I'm alright with. Again, we're 800 years further on than TNG era stuff. Things like this, added to the touches like the entire floor materialising in the station when needed, create the look and feel of a very advanced power. Comparatively, the crew of Discovery is even further highlighted as being very out of place when compared to this, isolating them even more than the mistrust. Hence their protest at being split apart when the only thing that they have now is one another. I like the new uniforms of the era. Well, I like the Admiral's version. The jumpsuit one looks a little too plain for me, and I prefer the two-piece suits. I think only Enterprise made the onesie look good, and that's because those were utility overalls. A big plot point is dropped with the repetition of a song that Tull is familiar with in a recording. Burnham seems to be the only one to find it strange, as it's nothing by itself, yet. But Chekhov's gun and all that. Also Sulu's plant. So here's my theory, and I'm sure it's not the only one along this line, but in my first review I pointed out that the only recorded instances of dilithium being destroyed involved resonance in its crystalline structure that built until it shattered, like we saw with the crystalline entity, and in real life with similar structures. Now we have the notice of a strange song with no clear origin point making its way into people's minds. What if the phrase uttered, "it just makes its way into the ether," proves to be literal, and a signal crossed the galaxy resonating with all the dilithium, until the burn. I also said that the dilithium might be alive, and have done it out of protest, which I was joking about, so I just hope this isn't the Song of the Dilithium Crystals, or some such weirdness. Speaking of the Tikov ship, we get to see a good old-fashioned style ship in distress story, with the seed vault drifting into an ion storm, some radiation interference coinciding with a mid-transport being to create a distorted entity. Watching them piece together what happened was well-paced, but the sort of thing that a single episode could have been comprised of. None makes the choice to leave, which surprised me, but also was not a decision that impacted me that hard, and considering I liked her character, that's odd. Maybe it's just because we didn't get enough of her this series and now she's gone, or maybe it's because I think we'll see her again. She was also still the late addition to the crew, which made her the outsider, so again, her leaving was lessened by that peripheral status in my mind. If I had one criticism of this episode, it's that there was a lot of development crammed into it. Locating Starfleet, the crew debrief, Nun's decision to leave, the song, and whatever the hell the mirror Georgiou's agreed to. Then again, there's not enough here to stretch over 2 episodes really, and I wasn't lost at any point, so it did well there. Georgiou is finally on the back foot too, after being confronted by whoever David Cronenberg is playing here, maybe himself. Considering this director's favoured dark science fiction, his character seems completely unfazed by Georgiou's bluster. I really get the sense that he's seen some serious trekking in his life. Georgiou has gone from a time where the mirror universe was a classified unknown and her survival a dark secret wrapped up in the notorious Section 31, to a time where it's common knowledge enough to have been studied consistently, and now ancient 500-year-old history. He throws the fall of the Terran Empire back in her face, which we are aware of from DS9, as well as the killing of the Vulcan science team at First Contact, which we saw in Enterprise. Now we have her weird freezing up on Discovery as a clear indicator that she's made some pact with whatever he represents. Burnham and Saru are forced into a confrontation of sorts as her new way of operating, which is basically the same as it ever was minus justifications, clashes with his responsibilities as captain to his crew and the chain of command. She proves to be an able commander, after all it was what she was pegged for before her mutiny, and successfully completes her mission, showing Starfleet how they operate. Despite being so adherent to the preservation and reunification of the Federation, she seems willing enough to risk it all to get her hands on the data to try to cure the illness. I think we're going to continue to see Burnham struggle to adjust back to the formal Starfleet life. She's capable of being both a model commander and a roguish maverick, but those two don't always go well together. But when it do, we get a Kirk-style leader. Detmer is still struggling with the responsibility of flying Discovery, and I hope she doesn't lock up in tense situations in the future. But the crew looking out for one another is definitely showing the family dynamic, rather than merely saying there's one there. All in all, I enjoyed this episode immensely. However, it was mostly due to the answers provided and the lore dump that was dropped at my feet, as well as all the technobabble and techie stuff. In terms of character, it's been more of the same, which isn't bad. It's just in this instance it was all overshadowed by the reappearance of Starfleet. So, thanks for watching this review of Episode 5. I'm really excited to explore these new vessels more, and I hope we get some more screen time with them. Perhaps the Voyager J is the current flagship, or do you think there's a new Enterprise out there still? Thanks again, and until the next one, goodbye.